မှတ်နိုင်လို့ရှိရင်ပฏิစွမ်းရည်ကထက်လာတော့ရှုရအာယုံပေါ်မှာဆွဆွမြဲမြဲဖြစ်တော့တာဘယ်တော့မှဟွာကျသွားတာလွတ်သွားတာမရှိတော့ဘူးအဲ့ဒီခံပြီးမှဥပဒနာညာဟာသရဘာဝတမ္မာတော့သဘောရှိတာလေသူရပြင်မြင်ကြည်ပြန်တော့သဘောရှိတာလေဒီပြောတော့ပါတယ်ဆိုတော့အဲ့ဒီကပြောရင်မလုံးတော့ပြောအောင်ဒီတတိစွမ်းအင်ချက်တဲ့အတွက်ဉာဏ်မြင်တောင်းနဲ့ဉာဏ်မြင်ကျေလို့ပါရဂါလေးတွေဆက်လက်ပြီးရှင်းပြပါဦးနော်
Sayadaw says, yesterday he has illustrated how to strengthen the insight, understanding through sharpening the observing power. When the yogis will have steady observation in their practice, whenever they are trying to note each and every object, their mind falls into the object without slipping from that object, without crossing over that object. If the faculty of awareness or the observing power directly involving with the noting object, they can easily get the object. Not only they get easily the object, even they are enabled to see clearly the object with various phenomenal natures. They will understand the unique nature of the phenomena, individual nature of the phenomena. Even they will ready to see in each and every moment that how they can realize the common nature of the phenomena. So in this way, through the sharpening of the observing power, they could spread their understanding in each and every noting with specific observation. Sayadaw says, still it is not sufficient to understand the true nature and true power of the sharp observing power, a sharp awareness. Still it should be developed to have more clear and widespread understanding in each and every aspect, in each and every object. Panoramic view should be there to see clearly all the noticed object precisely, clearly, accurately. So therefore, still the yogis have to develop their observing power to have well fixed noticing in each and every moment. Therefore, today also Sayadaw would like to try to explain more with various illustrating examples.
Tripita Jamu Savi Hosaga Satipatthana the Buloma Pai a day, Patana, Pai a day, Pusata, and long case of it. An eddy go for Yava, a longer an eddy Ponsavi, Savina Leki, Ponsavi, Yoga Pusata, a long case of it. Neddy go to January. Chamu Babu. I was in a seat at Hamisu. Portrait over what it is. She going to go check the Ioniha. The Tira, Piantna Bida, Chanche Bida, Semapia. Chindi, Edu Chini, Kini, Batana. Every change and piece of the team you have, so I don't know to tell
Sadhu says, in the beginning, he has explained the meaning of Satipatthana, especially he stresses in various ways the Patthana word. And again, in Patthana also, he tried to classify, to give proper understanding about the usefulness of the pa in Patthana word. Still, there is another meaning, Sayadaw says. The pa in Patthana could give specific important meaning. The meaning in Pali is called Pusatta. Pusa means extremely. Pa can denote the meaning as extremeness. What kind of extremeness is there in the word pa? Sayadaw says, when the meaningful act will be there in the practice of the yogis, if they are really sharpening their observing power, awareness in practice, possessing all other helping fair mental powers and mental factors, later on their observing power becomes so powerful, each and every moment the observing power spreads all over to cover the whole object without missing any part of the object. So Pattaritva is the illustrated meaning of pa. Pattaritva means spreading all over the object. All over the object means the noticing object at the moment when the object arises, whatever object it may be. So when the object arises, immediately the observing power spreads all over the object. All over means without sleeping the object and without overrunning the object. Exactly, the observing power covers the object as a whole. So that type of power could be there in the observing power or in the awareness. When that awareness will be there in the practice of the meditators, so they can see clearly all the phenomenal aspects in that noting object. They will get the panoramic view without missing any noticing as well as without missing any knowing factors. So therefore, Sayadaw says there is the another specific meaning of pa in Patana word which should be used in the practice.
ဒီပဲပြောလို့ရှိရင်ခွက်ထဲရေထည့်လိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့ခွက်ထဲရောက်သွားတဲ့ရေဟာအဲဒီခွက်ရဲ့ဆိုက်အလိုက်ပေါ့ပြန့်သွားတယ်ရေရတဲ့ရေရတဲ့စုနေတယ်အဲပြန့်ပြီးတော့အဲဒါကြီးပြန့်နေတဲ့ပုံမျိုးဆက်ဆက်ဒီပေါင်းပင်မှုအစရှိတဲ့ချူခွေးရှိတဲ့အာရုံလေးတွေမှတ်လိုက်လို့ရှိရင်ပေါင်းပင်မှုရဲ့နေပယ်ရှိသမျှပြန်ပြီးတော့ဒါလည်းအငြင်းမပြတ်ဖြစ်နေတာပေါ့အဲဒီသဘောမျိုးပါတနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းဘုန်းကြီးတို့ပြီးစရာပုံနေပါပြီပေါ့စီအဲဒီစီမျက်နှာဝါကိုတရေနဲ့ကျစ်လိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့ပေါက်တွေပါလို့ဖြစ်စရာအကုန်လုံးဖြတ်ချလိုက်ပြီးပြီဆိုတော့ဆိုရင်ဖြတ်ချလိုက်အဲဒီသဘောမျိုးပေါ်ရအာယုံလေးကိုတတိနဲ့ဖုံးဖိဖြတ်ချပြီးအောင်ဒါလည်းပြတ်နေတယ်တော့အဲဒီမှတ်ရတယ်အဲဒီသဘောမျိုးဟာရှုခွင့်အာယုံပေါ်မှာပြတ်နေပြီးတော့ဖြတ်ကျပြီးတော့အငြင်းပြတ်ဖြစ်နေတယ်ဒီလိုဆိုတော့အဲဒီဥပမာလေးနဲ့ဒီလိုရှိတယ်ရှင်းမှာ
So Sayadaw says to have clear understanding of that meaningful meaning of the observing power. Let us take an example. Suppose you have a cup in your hand and you are pouring water in that cup. So when you pour the water into the cup, the water doesn't stay in one place. It spreads all over, covering all the space, whatever space will be there in that cup. Or suppose even in a vessel, when you pour some water, it spreads all over the areas, whatever it should be covered. And Sayadaw also gives another example. Suppose you have a musical drum, and that musical drum should be covered by the skin, or what you call skin, and that musical instrument should be covered, covering all the space of that drum, without having any hole in any, as a tiny hole in it. So then only you can get the proper sound in your drum, in your prayer musical drum. So if there will be something missing part to cover, then the drum couldn't give proper sound. And as the skin should be covered in the musical drum or on the musical drum, in the same way, if you have real observing power, sharp observing power, spreading observing power, at the time whenever you use that observing power in noting in any object of the noticeable one, whether it may be the rising object, whether it may be the falling object, or whether it may be another object, whatever may comes at that moment. So the observing power covers all the spaces without having any lacking space in that noting. So such type of spreading power will be there in your observing power. If that power will be there in your noting, then you can see the object so clearly there couldn't be any missing part in it.
ဒီနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲတကယ်နဲ့တစ်ချိန်တည်းမှာကိုယ်တည်းကအာယုအမျိုးမျိုးတွေပေါ်နေတာရှိတာမရှိမလို့မျိုးလို့တစ်ချိန်တည်းမှာမျိုးလို့ပေါ့အဲ့ဒီလိုခါကြတော့ဒီခုနဲ့တခုကလည်းပဲမသိသေးဘူးပေါ့ဒီတာချင်းကလည်းကျူးနေတယ်မနေ့ကအာယုကလည်းပြည်ပြီးသားရှိတယ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့အာယုလည်းပြည်ပြီးသားရှိတယ်ဒါမှမဟုတ်ဘူးလို့ရှိရင်မနေ့ကအာယုမှာတပါအခြားအတိအကျပေါ်လာတဲ့အာယုတွေကပေါ့တပြိုင်တည်းထဲလို့ပေါ့ပေါ်နေတာပြည်ပြီးသားရှိအာယုမျိုးစုံကိုပေါက်ပြီးတော့ရှုရဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဘယ်ဟာမှမတည့်လို့ဖြစ်တယ်ပြီးတော့ချိန်ရှားဆုံးဟာကိုကွက်ကွင်းပြီးကြည့်ရတယ်။တနည်းအားဖြင့်လည်းပဲကိုကြိုက်နေတဲ့ဟာကိုကွက်ကွင်းပြီးကြည့်ရတယ်။ဒီမှာအများစုနဲ့ရိုက်ထားတဲ့ဓာတ်ပုံအရေးကြီးတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြည့်ရင်ပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းအရေးကြီးတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဝင်လိုက်တာပဲ။ဝင်ပြီးအဲ့ဒီအကွင်းလေးတွေကိုကြည့်လို့ရှိရင်ပေါင်ခတ်ပြီးကြည့်ရလို့ရှိရင်ဒီပေါင်လေးကပြီးရသွားတယ်။ပေါင်ခတ်လိုက်တဲ့ဆိုတဲ့ကောင်ကမိမိစိတ်ဝင်စားတဲ့အရေးကြီးတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြည့်လို့တမန်တော်နဲ့ဖြစ်သွားပြီအဲ့ဒီပြန်လာအောင်ကြည့်လို့ပြန်လာအောင်ရှုလို့ပြောတယ်
Sometimes the yogis may have different experiences in their noting. While they are noting one specific object at the time, there may arise other objects simultaneously which seemed occurring at the same time in same level. At the time, although they think they are noticing all the object and knowing all the object, but in actual sense, while they are noting one object at that time, they couldn't clearly note the other object. There will be some kind of shadowy noticing in their practice. But the yogi may think they have proper noting and knowing all those arising objects simultaneously. Sada gives an example. When you look a picture, group picture, at that time you cannot see all the faces together clearly. If you generally look on the picture, if you want to look carefully the particular person, at that time you have to put some kind of mark in it, circling on it. After having that circling on that particular person, if you try to look carefully, covering a whole the awareness on that particular person, then you can clearly see the person in that picture specifically compared to the other peoples who are there. So in the same way, when you will have sharpening observing power in noting, although there will be various other objects arising, but you don't slip from your main object, like you are circling something to see clearly that object. So that kind of covering power will be there to see clearly the particular object. So that is how the observing power spreads in particular object to know the object when, in various ways with clarification.
အဲဒီလိုပရမရီအာယုဝစအခြားတေချာပေါ်ရအာယုလေးပေါ်မှာကြော်မသွားရအောင်ချော်မသွားရအောင်လို့အားလုံးချုံပြီးငုံပြီးအောင်လို့ ပေါ်စားကစပြီးတော့အဆုံးထိမှတ်ပါဆိုတာပေါ့လေရှုမှတ်တဲ့တတိရှုဝင်းအာရုံပေါ်မှာပြက်ပြက်နှံ့နှံ့ဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ဒီမှာအကုန်လုံးခြုံမိပြီးတော့ဖြတ်ကျက်သွားစေခြင်းလို့တိုက်တွန်းတဲ့သဘောပါပဲအဲလိုတိုက်တွန်းတဲ့သဘောကိုဒီချိန်ကနားလည်မှုလွဲပြီးတော့ပေါင်းမှုပိမှုမှတ်တဲ့အခါအစလည်းမှားရမယ်အလယ်လည်းမှားရမယ်အဆုံးလည်းမှတ်ရမယ်ဆိုတာပေါ့ညွှန်ကြားထားတာကပေါင်းမှုခေါ်တဲ့တောင်းလေးလိုရှားတဲ့ရှုခွင်းကိုမှတ်ရမယ်ဒီလိုပြောတာရှုခွင်းကိုဒီမှာပြပါတယ်မှတ်ရမယ်ဟာဘယ်ကနေဘယ်အထိမှတ်ရမှာလို့ပြည့်ပြည့်နေတာဖြစ်အောင်ခုံကြုံလည်းမပြရအောင်ချော်လည်းမသွားရအောင်ဒီကလေးဖောင်းစားကစားပြီးတော့တောက်လျှောက်ဆုံးသွားတဲ့အထိဆွဲဆွဲမြင်မှတ်ပါလို့ဒီလိုညွှန်ကြားထားတာဒါလိုညွှန်ကြားထားတဲ့အလေးပဲကောက်လွဲပြီးတော့ဖောင်းမှတ်ရမယ်အစားအလေးထားပြီးတော့မှတ်ရမယ်အစားပေါ့ဖောင်းစားပြီးဖောင်းနေပြီးဖောင်းနေပြီးတော့စိတ်ကူးနေတော့လုပ်တယ်ဘုရားကကာလပဲချင်းမှုချင်းမှုပြတ်မှုခေါ်တဲ့ချိန်မဲကာလလေးပဲဒီချိန်မဲကာလလေးကတကယ်ရှုရမယ်ပရမအစစ်ပေါ့ဘူးပြညာသဘောပဲပြညာသဘောကရှုနေတော့စိတ်ကူးနေတာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ဘာမှမဖြစ်ဘူးအဲ့ဒီအချိန်အဲ့ဒီလိုနားလည်မှုလွဲပြီးတော့ဘာမှညာမုန်းတဲ့ပေါ့လေကွာကမ္မထမ်းဆရာလုပ်ပြီးတော့ညွှန်ကြားတာလေးရှိပါတယ်တော်တော်လေးလွဲချောင်းနေတာတွေ့ရပါတယ်
So Sayadaw says it is necessary to get the proper meaning of that Satipatthana word. If there will be some kind of misunderstanding in it, then the practice also goes to the wrong way. So therefore, whenever you try to note the knowable object or meditational object beginning from the primary object such as rising and falling, each and every time the observing power should be followed together with the object, from the beginning to the end, to cover whole object without slipping any part, without overrunning any part of the object. If you don't do the noting in that way, then there will involve another type of noting. There are yogis getting misunderstanding in the noting process. They are thinking that in one rising noting, they should try to divide them in the 3 phases. Oh, this is the beginning of the rising, this is the middle of the rising, and this is the end of the rising. So they are trying to note the rising process with division, rising of the beginning, rising of the middle, and rising of the ending. So when they do in that way, that noting, they are just conceptualizing the rising. They are actually not trying to see, to find out the absolute reality on it. So the actual instruction is not to divide in that way in 3 phases. That division is just to show the time period, in one object. But the noting should be covered as a whole in as one object, not with any divisions. So that is why my observing power should be spread all over. The emphasis is given in that particular meaning. The observing power should be covered whole the process of rising when it starts to begin. So from the beginning to the end, the observing power should be well covered, well caught in that noting. So the noting should be done in that way. If not, they couldn't get the rising process clearly, and they couldn't have any kind of real understanding about the phenomenal aspects of in that rising process. So the teachers should be taken care in such the instruction, how they should be, the yogis should be instructed. They shouldn't instruct the yogis that you should try to note the beginning of the rising, you should try to note the middle of the rising, you should try to note the ending of the rising. That is the wrong instruction, and people take wrongly also. So if you try to note in that way, there couldn't be proper observing power involved in your noting, as well. When there won't be proper involvement of the observing power awareness, there couldn't be any understanding arise in your practice. So therefore it should be seriously taken care that the noting in each and every object should be as a whole, not as a division, not with the division. So in that way, if you could cover whole object as the one object in each and every noting, then there couldn't involve any thought process also. Otherwise, thinking will be there, because the tension is to get the beginning of the rising, to get the middle of the rising, and to get the ending of the rising. So thought involves, oh, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the ending. So in that particular moment, so there couldn't be any precise noting. So therefore Sayadaw is trying to give the meaning of my observing power as the pataritva, spreading all over the object without sleeping, without overrunning the object, to get as a whole process in one noting precisely. Sayadaw says, if any teacher tries to introduce to the meditators, they should try to note the object, each and every object dividing in three ways. Then they are just only introducing them to note only the time conception. Not when they introduce to just to note the time conception, they will just have the concept noting, not the actual noting to see the ultimate reality or phenomenal reality in that noting. So therefore there should be very considerable should be known the considerable fact in each and every noting, how that should be noted to gain actual phenomenal understanding, to become the real practice of insight.
Tanda Mama and Niji like the Yoda, Yogi Yoda, Honali, Parado, Paulo, Honali, the sins, the Bible. Children from one inside what can be Yoda. Wayota never chatted in a post of Pido, Alakama, Marali, Yoinari, Urari, Urari, everyone had a different shin Ubadana, King, crab, Pama, the knee, and you jail the walls. Hello, and you Tama, and you jail, the tea. Con suy ở hậu mà cái mà đi sau thì tí gì nhiều rồi xoay thế là đi ra được phát thảo được.
Sayadaw says, in the practice, when the meditators enable to spread their observing power in each and every object, as the observing power becomes powerful, their understanding also becomes powerful. In the beginning, whenever they are noting the rising and falling or any other objects, they just see sometimes the form of abdomen, sometimes the manner of the rising or falling. They couldn't get into the real phenomenal aspect. And when they are noting the object, they will just get the whole object only. They cannot see any phenomenal particles in it, any phenomenal units in it. But after, when their observing power sharpens and spreads all over, it becomes strong and powerful. They overcome that for seeing form, or seeing only the manner in the object. Because of the fully spreading power of observing power or the awareness, they can clearly see the object with phenomenal aspects. So in rising, they will see tension, vibration, movement, steepness, or pressure. Not only they can just only see the tension, in tension also there are very, very seeming type of particles are there in each and every tension, in each and every pressure, in each and every vibration. So those things, about the particular particles and units also becomes very clear to them. So therefore Sayadaw says, when your observing power spreads on the object, covering as a whole, then your seeing power also develops. You will get, as Sayadaw wants to use the word as panoramic view. You can see very clearly what are there within that noting. Not only you can see the power of the wind element at that time, because the wind element also mixed with another elements, and during that noting moment even you can see another elementary forces. Sometimes you may have hardness in it, sometimes you may have softness in it, sometimes you may have heat feeling in it, sometimes you may have cold in it, sometimes you may have some kind of the solidity in it. So in that way you can see so many other things also, even in one noting. If your observing power is really spreading all over the object precisely, accurately and concurrently, without sleeping and without the overrunning from the object. So therefore, when that type of observing power will be there, so you will have all sorts of understanding, knowing aspect followed together. So together with the sharpening of observing power, your knowing power, understanding power, or the eye of vision will spread over as well as sharpens.
အဲ့ဒီလိုရှုလို့တွေ့တဲ့ဟာကိုရိုးရိုးစကားလုံးကြီးနဲ့ပြင်ပြရမယ်စားတချို့ကဘုံပိန်မှတ်ဆိုလို့မှားရတယ်ဗျဘုံပိန်မတွေ့ဘူးအဲ့ဒါဒီရှုပ်ချက်ခံနေတာပဲဘာရှိတယ်ဗျဆိုတော့ဒါကတည်းရလို့ပုံပြီးတော့သူကြီးကြားတာဒီစကားတွေကတော့တည်ပြီးတော့အတင်းမျိုးမရှိတာဘုံပိန်မှတ်နေတော့ဒီတောင်းတာလေးလည်းသိတယ်အခြားဟာလေးတွေလည်းအလိုလိုသိနေကြဗျမှတ်ရပါမယ်ပြီးတော့ဒါလေးလည်းအခြေမပြည့်မှတ်လို့လည်းသိနေတယ်စိတ်ကူးလေးလည်းဒီနဲ့ပေါ်နေတယ်ဗျဒါလေးလည်းသိနေရတယ်မှတ်ရပါမယ်ဒီလိုတယ်လို့ပြောလိုက်ရင်ရှင်းတယ်အဲ့လိုရှင်းပြောရမယ်စားဖြစ်တာကတမျိုးကိုကစကလုံးနဲ့ပြင်ပြတာကတမျိုးတချို့ဒီလိုမက်တစ်ဆန်ဆန်နဲ့ပေါ်ပြီးပြင်ပြတော့တကားလှအောင်သုံးပြီးတော့ဒီကလွဲချော်ပြီးတမန်ဆရာတွေရုပ်တွေနားလည်မဖြစ်ပဲဖြစ်နေတယ်လမ်းကြောင်းပြီးမယ်ရှင်ရောရုပ်တွေအဲ့ဒီမလိုက်နိုင်ဘူးဖြစ်နေတယ်အဲ့တော့ဓမ္မသူပြောတဲ့ဟာကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ဖြောက်နေတယ်ဟောဒီလိုဆိုလိုတာကအဲ့ဒီမှာယောဂီကလိုက်တာလူအဲ့ဒီလိုရှင်းပြောရင်မရဘူးလားဆိုတော့သူပြောတယ်လည်းရသားပဲဆိုတော့ဒီလိုကိုခံရတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့လို့များသောအားဖြင့်ယောဂီကတော့ကိုတွေ့ကြုံတဲ့အတိုင်းပေါ့လေရှင်းရိုးရိုးစကားလုံးနဲ့တင်ပြရေးမှာအားနေတာပြရပါတယ်
When your practice develops and you see various phenomenal aspects, you need to put them in direct experience when you go to the interview. There are some yogis and they are telling their experiences. Sadhu says to us to note the rising clearly, so we try to note the rising clearly, but we cannot see the rising there. There are so many other things coming and going. We cannot note precisely the rising. Yes, it is true. There are so many things coming and going within that rising, and you cannot see the rising. Because now your observing power is spreading all over the object. So you are losing the form and manner of the rising, so you cannot see the rising there. But you can see the phenomenal aspects at that time. When you will put them in your word, just try to explain it as you see. Don't try to decorate the words in your interview. If you try to decorate the words in interview, then the main message won't be there in your interview. So what you see, whether you have got the rising or falling, it doesn't matter. But you are noting the rising at the time. If you see the phenomenal aspects, put them. While I was noting the rising at the time, I can see vibration, tension, pressure, steepness, hardness, softness. Put that. Whatever you see at that time. In very plain word, Sadhu says, you shouldn't use the diplomatic word at that time. So when you use the diplomatic words, so you couldn't get the good connection with the teacher there, and some kind of misunderstanding will be there in between teacher and the pupil, and so they couldn't have proper understanding. And sometimes there are some yogis, yes, we are noting the rising and falling. Still in the background there are something coming. So thought will be there. And they know that there are thoughts, and they know that their noting is clear as the main object. Never mind, let them come. So just try to explain. While I was noting the rising also clear, but thinking also there, and I can know the thinking also, very clear. No any diplomatic word there, and no any decoration of words is there. So that way the experience should be reported to the teacher. The Sayadaw wants all the time that direct experience, not the beautiful words in it. What was happening in your practice? Tell directly that, whether it would be beautiful one, or whether it would be ugly one, or whether it would be different one. So what you saw, put that in direct word. Then only there will be actual connection in between teacher and pupil. So otherwise there will be somewhere all the time some kind of misunderstanding. And Sayadaw also couldn't have satisfaction when you report in long-term ways and with decoration and no point there, then Sayadaw get disappointed. So therefore Sayadaw says, although your practice is getting improvement, but when you put them in different words, so then it gives the another impression to Sayadaw. So at that time he couldn't get through in your experience. So Sayadaw would like to suggest you to put them as you experience in your practice, without having any the hesitation to put all them in plain words.
အဲ့ဒီအခက်အခဲတွေမကြုံရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ရင်မဆိုင်ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့စပိုင်းလေးကဘုန်းကြီးကလမ်းကိစ္စကိုရှင်းပြခဲ့ပါတယ်ယောဂီဒီနေ့ခေါ်ပြီးတော့ပြောပါတယ်တရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတာသူတည်ပညာလုပ်နေတယ်ဒီရဲ့မှာငုံနေတဲ့ဟာတွေတူပေါ်တဲ့အခါမှာအဆက်မပြတ်ပေါက်တိုင်းပေါ်တယ်ပေါ်တဲ့ပေါ်ကြီးကတွေ့ကြုံတဲ့သူကတန်းဆောင်ရှင်းမရှင်းပဲနဲ့တိတိကျကျပြောရတယ်တွေ့ကြုံတဲ့အတိုင်းဒါလိုပဲတော့တရားထုတ်တယ်ဆိုတာဆက်ဖို့ဆက်လုပ်တာလေတွေ့ကြုံတဲ့ဟာတွေကတော့တိတိကျကျယူသားသားနဲ့တော့ပြောတာဒါတန်းဆောင်ရှင်းလို့ဒါရိုင်းတော့ပါဒီတဘာဝကြိုင်တော်ပြီးဆိုတော့ဆုံးပြောတာဒါလိုပဲလို့အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုတတိမရကြလို့လားအတော့မဟုတ်တယ်လို့လည်းတော့မသိဘူးယောဂီချစ်တော်များများအဲ့ဒါလေးကိုပြောတာတယ်ပြီးတော့ကြား
To avoid that difficulty, so Sayadaw says he had gathered all the yogis how to give them proper understanding in reporting, how they should report their experiences to the teacher. So he also told them that the meditators are like the researching people. If they want to do some research work, excavating the earths and trying to find out ancient things, at that time, whatever they will get in their excavation, they put those things in record as they found there. So in the same way, meditators also are the research workers. And whatever they found there, they have to put in plain word. That it is not necessary to write them in graphic letters. So therefore, Sayadaw would like to have that type of researching type of, or excavating and finding something and recording the findings. As you do the recording of the findings without another decorative words, what you found in that excavation, in the same. And there are some yogis who are quite honestly doing their practice, and in report also they are very honest, and in their reporting the Sayadaw could find how their observing power is sharpening day after day. So they can report what they are finding in each and every noting. Sometimes there are yogis who were explaining to Sayadaw, Venerable Sir, although we are trying to note specific objects, but there are so many objects, difficult to get as a particular one. So every object is very clear in my noting. So in that way, they put their experiences that even although they are trying to note one object, because of the spreading power of observing power awareness, so they can see so many particles, other objects also arising one after another. And even they are unable to put the label on it over what kind of object they are noting, but they just put them with such words which can show that how they have the power of noting and how they have the power of knowing. Every particles are clear to them, and they can see those objects are arising and passing away, and they are very clear to them. And but sometimes they think they have some difficulty to note the objects. So that is why they describe it with a very, very serious way. How to put in word, I also couldn't know the word. Some kind of painstaking type of noting they show in their interview. So how painful, sharply they are trying to get the object, and how they can get that object. But they might feel that they could note the of each and every object clearly. So that they might have some kind of disappointment in their interview to put in word exactly to make Sayadaw to know how they experience these objects clearly.
那စောစောကပြောခဲ့တဲ့ဤတိုင်းရှိတော့တတိတွေဟာအရှိန်ကောင်းလာတယ်ဘယ်လောက်ထိအရှိန်ကောင်းလာလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အဖြစ်အပျက်ကိုခတ်တက်တဲ့ဉာဏ်စဉာဏ်မှာဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီဉာဏ်ရောက်တဲ့အခါမှာတိကိုချီးကျူးထားဝိပဿနာနဲ့ရှင်းတွဲပြီးတော့ဒီပေါ်လာပြီတဲ့ဒီတိဟာတိကျသဘာဝအာယုန်ကြီးတွေမဟုတ်ဘူးအဲ့ဒီအာယုန်ကြီးတွေပေါ်ပေါ်ပြီးတော့တခဏချင်းပျောက်ပျောက်သွားတာပေါ့ခတ်တက်တက်ပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီဝိပဿနာနဲ့ရှင်းတွဲတဲ့တိဟာစုပတ္တိတာဖြစ်လာတယ်ကောင်းကောင်းထင်လာတယ်ပြီးတော့စုပဋိဋ္ဌိတ ကောင်းစွာလည်းတည်တတ်တယ်ကောင်းကောင်းတည်တတ်တယ်။ဘာနဲ့တူလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီရှုပ်မထဲမှာစိုက်ထားတဲ့တိုင်များလိုပဲစိုက်ထားတယ်။ခိုင်နေရင်းမြမလို့မချက်ပဲဖြစ်နေတယ်။ဒီလိုကိုကြည့်ထားပါတော့။ကျွရအာရုံပေါ်မှာပဲစွဲမြဲပြီးတော့ခိုင်းနေတယ်လို့ဆိုရင်အလွတ်မရှိအကျော်မရှိဘူးလို့ဆိုတယ်
So Sayadaw says, when the observing power develops in the meditating yogis, the observing power follows together with the insight knowledge. There are certain knowledge of insight. When they reach to that level, the observing power and the insight knowledge become so strong and powerful. Whenever the yogis are noting the object, each and every object becomes very clear to them, and those objects are arising and passing away so rapidly. There are so swift movement is there, but they never miss even that the rapid process of the object. So actively the observing power follows with the understanding of insight. So therefore, in such level, the Buddha described that the observing power becomes very, very clear and brightening. Not only brightening, it gets the fixing power in the object without mixing, without having any, perturbable condition in it. That means it becomes so firm and steady and strong in noting each and every object, never missing any particles, although they may be very swiftly moving, very rapidly progressing one after another. Sayadaw says, in such understanding level and such powerful awareness level, the yogi feels that before he or she has to try to direct his or her observing power towards the object to get the object clearly, but at that moment the objects are there, coming one after another, rushing towards the observing power. So that means whatever object arise, not only one or two objects, hundreds of objects may arise. So the observing power could get each and every object, because the objects also coming rapidly, and the sharpening observing power also getting them. So one car comes, gets well, another comes, gets well, another comes, gets well. So in that way, all the objects, whatever they come at that time, so observing power is there to perceive them, to grasp them, to catch them, to hold them. So in that way, the observing power becomes sharp enough as well as the understanding also. And at that, in such level, observing power seems standing still, and the noting object are there coming, rushing forward to the object. So that means without effort, the knowable objects could be noted clearly and precisely at the same time without having any forceful effort. It's very easy to note at the time each and every object.
ကျန်ကများမှာနှိမ့်ရှိပြီးတော့ပြတ်ထားပုံကတော့အဲ့ဒီအပိုင်းလောက်ရောက်တဲ့ယောဂီမှာဒီဘက်ကျက်ကူအပင်ရင်ရထားတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တမလွန်လောကအလိုလိုထင်ရှားနေတယ်လို့တဲ့မျိုးမျိုးစီပြီးလိုက်လို့ရှိရင်အလုံးပြီးတာအဲ့လိုပြီးတာပဲပြီးတာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်
In such level, the text as praising words, how strong the observing power could be at that time. So suppose a person who has got the divine eyes, whatever objects he wants to see, immediately he can see the object clearly, how far it may be. So all the objects becomes very clear to him in his vision. In the same way, in such level, because of the strong power of awareness, whatever object will be there, it becomes for him very clear and very precise and very distinctive. Too much obviously he can see the object, whatever may arise.
ပုံမပြီးတော့ထင်ရှားရအောင်တက်တည်တာရကပြစ္ဆုတ်ပန်တက်တည်တာရကလေးကိုဘုန်းကြီးမှရှိပါတယ်ခုနေတာကိုရင်လေးတရားအထုံးလို့ဒီဘဝလေးမှာဒီအမိမျိုးအဖမျိုးစိနဲ့အမိမျိုးစိစတင်ပြီးတော့ပူပေါင်းနေခြင်းကစပြီးလက်ရှိအသက်ထင်ရှားရှိတဲ့အချိန်ပေါ့အဲ့ဒါလေးဒီစင်တဲ့မြင်လာပုံလေးတွေပြီးတော့မျိုးသမီးတယောက်ဟာသူတို့တတိအကောက်တဲ့ခါကျတော့အိမ်ကိုနှလုံးသွင်းစဉ်းကြည့်တဲ့အခါမှာအိမ်ကလူတွေရဲ့လူပုံကိုင်ပုံလှချပုံလေးမြင်ပုံလေးပြီးတော့ဒကာကြီးတူဟာဒီတရားထုတ်တဲ့အခါကျတော့နည်းနည်းမိခင်မြင်နေမှာပေါ့အပွေပိုက်ခံရတဲ့အချိန်ကစပြီးတော့လက်ရှိအခုအထုတ်တဲ့ဒီဘောအထီးပေါ့ဘောဖြစ်စဉ်တွေပေါ့ဒီလိုလေးဒါလေးတွေရှိပါတယ်ဘောအောင်မြင်ပုံလေးလည်းရှိပါတယ်ဒါမှမဟုတ်ယူကြီးအားမနေတဲ့နေရာထားတော့အဲ့ဒါလေးတော့ကိုကြီးတော့ဖွင့်ထုတ်ပြီးတော့ပြောလို့ပါဘူးဒီစပါအကြောင်းလေးတော့ပို့ပြပါပါ
So Sayadaw says in such level, not only they can get the clear object one after another, but even their vision could be very sharp enough to see beyond that level. So Sayadaw says he has so many present examples which occurred actually in the practice. There was a 9-year-old novice who was practicing meditation and who reached to that stage of strong, powerful observing level. At that time, the 9-year-old novice reported to his teacher that his observing power was so sharp enough, even he can see his conceiving moment in his mother's womb. So even he can see clearly the sperm and ovum of the father and mother, and beginning from that, how he born, how he got big and big, bigger and bigger. So all these things came to his awareness, they are very clear to him. That type or that kind of report also was there from a 9-year-old novice. And there was another lady, and she also has same type of vision. That while she was observing, noting the object, at that time she can see her very, very young age life, while she was relying on her mother's lap. Since at that time, how she got bigger and bigger, how she got how to say, she became older and older, younger and younger, older and older. Older and older. So all these scenes she can see through with her the observing power. And there is another gentleman, old man, who was practicing meditation. And when he also reached that level, when he tried to reflect about his home, and he can see what is going on in his home, how the families were working at home. So he can see all these things clearly, living in the meditation center, and where through the reflection of the observing power, the fact could be seen very clearly. So in that power also could be gained during that sharpening level of observing power. So Sayadaw says, for today we will leave the discourse here, and Sayadaw will try to explain furthermore about the power of the observing power in coming days.